We are asked a lot since the launch of the Alpha Theta XDJ-AZ all-in-one DJ unit to compare it to the Denon DJ Prime 4 Plus, which is the flagship 4-channel standalone all-in-one DJ unit from Denon DJ. They are the two biggest names in this area of the DJ market, and so these are the two you will naturally consider next to each other. So in this head-to-head, we're going to look at the features, we're going to look at the inputs and outputs, the peripherals that you can plug into them, the appearance, the way the software works, the differences between them, and then at the end I'm going to conclude, so giving you a better idea about which one might be right for you. We're also going to tell you about some resources that will help you, not least that we have a full video training tutorial on both of these units. There's a link underneath for each of them. Click on that in order to go to that training where I talk you exhaustively through every feature, and they're long, so get a cup of tea and a piece of fruitcake. But also we've got full reviews of these as well, so if you'd like to see our review of both this, which is at the time of recording this a very new unit, or the Prime 4 / Prime 4 Plus, they're very similar, we have a review of that as well. Again, they're linked underneath, and towards the end of this head-to-head I will also tell you about where you can find training to make the most of these units. Right, there's a lot to get through here. We need to look at the features, we need to look at the inputs and the outputs and what peripherals you can attach to them. We need to look at the appearance of them. We need to look at how the software works and the hardware and so on before we can get to that conclusion. So let's get started by looking at the XDJ-AZ from the point of view of its appearance compared to the Prime 4 Plus. Well, both are big units. That said, the XDJ-AZ is a full 25% bigger, mainly wider, but a bit deeper and higher than the Prime 4 Plus. They're both serious, they're angular, they're squared off, they mean business. However, the jog wheels on the XDJ-AZ are big CDJ style jog wheels compared to the smaller jog wheels on the Prime 4 Plus. They appear pretty small really compared to the size of the unit itself. The AZ, again, jog wheels are kind of club style. They're very similar to the jogs on the CDJ-3000 players, which is not surprising because as far as I can tell they actually are the same jogs that are on the CDJ-3000s. And so if you like that look and feel as opposed to the controller look and feel of the jog wheels on the Prime 4, that could be a consideration for you. They've both got great screens. I mean, really great screens. They're big, they're bright, they can contain a lot of information. They're really functional with a lot of interesting and useful stuff on them. That said, the screen on the Prime 4 Plus is smoother. It just feels a little bit snappier than the screen on the XDJ-AZ, even though it's 5 years older. So if you like the really fast refresh rates and the smoothness of the way you use the screen on your phone and you don't want to lose any of that, then the Prime 4 Plus might be the better choice. That said, the screen is really nice on the AZ as well. Let's look at the inputs and the outputs and the peripherals that you can plug into both of these units. Around the back of the XDJ-AZ, we have a single computer input. Neither of these offer two inputs for linking to a computer. A single link, this is for Pro DJ Link, if you want to attach it to an Ethernet switch and then use extra standalone decks to control decks 3 and 4. Moving along then, we've got the XLR balanced master output there with a unbalanced master output for RCAs there, and then a balanced TRS output for the booth output. Inputs for channels 3 and 4 that you can use with your CDJs or with turntables, for instance. And then the two microphone inputs, which are Omni Jack that can take XLR and the TS microphone sockets as well. Very similar at the back of the Prime 4 Plus. We do have an extra 2 USB sockets here, and these are for plugging extra decks in, so you can plug USB decks in like Denon DJ's own LC6000s to give you decks 3 and 4, because you can't plug Ethernet or Pro DJ Link decks in the way it works with Pioneer, but effectively it gets you 2 more decks plugged in as well. Then you've got a USB for plugging in your computer. Notice it's a USB-B rather than a USB-C. There is an Ethernet port, but this is what I use anyway for just getting a really solid internet signal into the thing. So you've got a zone output because this has a zone as well. You can have an extra musical zone, which you don't get on the XDJ-AZ. And here's the main outputs, booth and main balanced, but they're XLR for the booth, not TRS. and also the unbalanced output there as well with a stereo mono switch. So we also have our inputs here, so you can see we've got inputs for 1, 2, 3 and 4 on the Denon DJ Prime 4 Plus, but you only get inputs for decks 3 and 4 on the XDJ-AZ. And again, 2 microphone inputs, the same kind of socket that's on the XDJ-AZ. Worth pointing out that both units let you use Bluetooth as an input. However, the XDJ-AZ does not have the ability to put a hard drive into it. You get a special little slot underneath the Prime 4 Plus where you can unscrew it and put a hard drive in, which is nice if you're a mobile DJ who wants to always have all their music in without using the external slots in order to do that. Layout wise is where you see some of the biggest differences between the two units. The XDJ-AZ is a club mixer. This is extremely similar to the A9 mixer, which is the club standard at the time of recording this, and hybrid decks. And by hybrid decks, I mean they are pretty similar to the CDJ-3000s, again, which is the closest we have to a club standard for this stuff. However, they have the performance pads at the bottom like DJ controllers, which is why I call it hybrid. You're getting a bit of each here. But apart from the performance pads, if you take those away, everything else is laid out exactly like the CDJ-3000s. If having the decks looking like the CDJ-3000s completely is really important to you, then funnily enough, the Opus Quad from the same company might be a better choice, even though everything else about it is nowhere near as close to club gear as this is. This is extremely close to using club gear. If you've looked at the gear DJs use in clubs, the separates, and thought, I just want something like that in an all-in-one unit, this is the closest unit on the market that gets you to that. The Prime 4 Plus is very different though. It breaks away from that club layout in a lot of ways, but in other ways it's actually more traditional, because DJ controllers that control DJ software used to be laid out more like this is laid out now. And what do I mean by that? Well, you don't get the strip of effects down the right hand side of the mixer, which is a club standard and which we saw on the XDJ-AZ a second ago. Instead, the effects are on 2 separate units at the top, and that's quite good if you're into that way of doing things. It's certainly very flexible and they're very well done, these effects units with their own little screens and so on, but it is arguably not the standard way of doing it anymore. Also, the screen itself pivots, which it doesn't on the AZ. The AZ has got a fixed angle screen, as has all Pioneer DJ / Alpha Theta gear, and overall the layout is certainly more non-standard than standard gear of all types. And what I mean by that is that even the mixer here is different from Denon DJ's own club mixers. And so this is very much a controller style layout. It breaks away from club style. Sometimes it works, sometimes you might miss that club style of doing things. Personally, I think the way looping works on this kind of controller is more intuitive, but I'm also very happy using the looping on I keep calling it standard, but it just is, because most clubs have the gearing that Pioneer DJ / Alpha Theta has used to base the AZ's design on, and they have a different way of doing it. I'm quite happy using those, but you might have a preference. All that said, it's not going to take you an awful long time to get used to it if you've used any DJ gear. These controls are more or less in the same place. You've got your microphone controls more or less in the same place. Your main output controls more or less in the same place. And of course, the channels are laid out pretty similarly as well. Note that it appears to be easier to replace the crossfader on the Prime 4 Plus than it does on the XDJ-AZ. Let's bang through some of the feature differences between these units. So the XDJ-AZ has got standalone capability. You can use it without any laptop nearby. Of course it has, as has the Prime 4 Plus. However, the XDJ-AZ works with both Serato and Rekordbox software, but the Prime 4 Plus only works with Serato if you want to use it with software out of those 2 officially supported packages. So if Rekordbox is important to you, then it has to be the XDJ-AZ. When it comes to music subscription service, the Prime 4 Plus wins because it has Beatport, BeatSource, SoundCloud, Tidal, Amazon, and this one here has only got Beatport. So yes, there's music subscription built in, but if you want anything that isn't Beatport currently, then you need to go for the Prime 4 Plus. The guys over at Alpha Theta have said that this will come to the AZ, as in more music subscription services, but they're not here at launch, and Don't hold your breath for that, because they're notoriously slow at adding things, unlike the makers of the Prime 4 Plus, who are very quick at adding things and have been over the years. So that's not just me saying that, that's the proof of the pudding. Right, so there's a few other features that you get on the Prime 4 Plus that you don't get on the XDJ-AZ. It's got lighting. So this is something that means that with a subscription, you can control pro club lighting, or more interestingly, if you're a mobile DJ, you can take your lighting rig and control it from within the Prime 4 Plus. There's none of that at all on the XDJ-AZ. However, the XDJ-AZ does let you use wireless headphones using the Sonic Link technology that's been introduced by Alpha Theta on this unit. And so that means that just by pressing a button around the front of here, you can plug your headphones, or rather not plug your headphones in, have them working without any wires at all. So if that's important to you, it's only on the XDJ-AZ. They both have the ability to work with a cloud library. In other words, you can put your music in the cloud and you can access it from them. They both use Dropbox, but the way that Pioneer DJ stroke Alpha Theta do it, for me, is a little bit more complete and a little bit cleverer, albeit behind a subscription. And the way they do it is you have a cloud library with all the data and the information kept there separate from the Dropbox account itself by them, and it's lightning fast the way that works. And in practice, what that means is you can use your phone, for instance, or any laptop that's plugged in and that's got Rekordbox running on it to add music to it, to do your playlisting, to do your beat gridding and so on, and anything you change on anything will come up on the unit when you log in. It's called Cloud Direct Play. Now, as I say, you get a similar thing on the Prime 4 Plus working with Dropbox, but for me, it's just not as complete because they haven't got any apps that you can use with it, so you can't do anything on your phone with it. And because Rekordbox is performance software as well, it's not just software for preparing your music, it's just more useful to have the cloud on that kind of software because you can use it on controllers, you can use it with and without a laptop, etc, etc. So I think while that's a useful feature to have, I think the XDJ-AZ certainly wins on that one. So the Prime 4, to its credit, has actually got a better way of logging into all of these things. The XDJ-AZ, you've got to have a USB drive that you've prepared in order to unlock your cloud library, which is fine, but you also have to have that USB drive plugged in to get onto Beatport, but it won't hold your Beatport login details. So every time that you want to log into Beatport, you've got to type them all in on the screen, which is a little bit lame. But with the Den & DJ unit and with Engine DJ, the accompanying software, they've now given you a universal login where you log into the unit and it knows all that stuff in the background, which is certainly better. When it comes to the way you work with your music on the screen and the way you prepare your music beforehand, for me, the XDJ-AZ wins slightly because I just think the features it's got for preparing your tracks and then finding the next track to play and so on, while a lot of these features are on the Den & DJ unit in its own kind of take on it, I think they're still better on here, and certainly on the desktop software, the Rekordbox desktop software for preparing your music to DJ on these units, or on this unit, on the XDJ-AZ, is better than the Engine DJ software for preparing your music to play on the Prime 4 Plus, because it is a library software. That's where it came from. It wasn't even DJ software in the first place, Rekordbox, and they got very good at it. It's got tags and categories and things that you just don't get in Engine DJ. Engine DJ is fine for preparing your music, but not quite as complex, not quite as fully featured as the software you get for this, and that carries across into the unit itself. However, that said, once you are playing, there's a couple of features on the Prime 4 that you don't get at all on the XDJ-AZ. The drop sampler, which is great for just dropping in those DJ idents and DJ drops and so on, is a great addition to the Prime 4 Plus. Nothing like that at all on the AZ. And the Prime 4 Plus has got something close to our heart. It's got fuzzy key mixing. Now, I won't go into this in detail now. We'll put a link underneath to our fuzzy key mixing tutorial. But basically, we've been teaching harmonic mixing, key mixing here at Digital DJ Tips for many, many years. And many years ago, we came up with a better way of key mixing than the way it's generally taught in DJ circles. And we called it fuzzy key mixing. And very excitingly, most of the main players have now taken it on board and put it into their software. At least many of them have. And that is in the Prime 4 Plus as an option alongside the more traditional way of doing it. Both of them have key mixing, both of them have key sync, but you get the better option in the Engine DJ powered Prime 4 Plus. However, to my ears, one place where the XDJ-AZ definitely wins is the effects. Firstly, they're very easy to use because they're very standard. This is the same way the effects are laid out on Pro gear and indeed on all modern Pioneer DJ stroke Alpha Theta gear. But also, frankly, they just sound better. So if effects are important to you and you want the ones that you're used to hearing off Pro DJ gear, you might find that this unit has got the edge. I'm sure there's a lot more because these are complicated and very, very capable DJ units, but I think I've covered most of it. I mean, maybe you can use DVS on both of them, so you can plug turntables in and use them with software to control the software that way. That's something that I didn't cover. They've both got Wi-Fi. I didn't explicitly cover that. So they really are, whichever one you go for, they're great. But the question is, which one is best for you? Well, if you want it for home or hobby use, honestly, just go for the one you think you're going to have the most fun with. You can't really go wrong with either of these. If what's important to you is the muscle memory and the ability to jump from this unit to other gear by the same manufacturer, in other words, you want to go and DJ in the club on their gear, and this is the gear they've got in the club, which is very, very likely that it will be, then you're definitely going to be better off with the XDJ-AZ because it basically is the same as this gear in feature set and in the way it looks and feels. To hobby DJs, home DJs, and people who just love technology and the latest stuff, the early adopters, you're probably always going to prefer the Denon DJ stuff because they're always innovating, always shoving new stuff in there. But that's not everyone. Some people prefer just to keep the features, keep a lid on it, but just make sure that they're where they want them to be. They've got that reliability, they've got that ease of use that they're used to. And for those people who don't actually have much of a desire to have something new around every corner, you might just naturally gravitate towards the way DJ's kind of always been done on Pioneer DJ Alpha Theta gear. Again, that's a tick for the AZ. This is a wonderful, wonderful controller system, whatever you want to call it. But so is this one. I think you probably by now will have a pretty clear idea of which one you want. But if you haven't, then my advice is twofold. One, is there a key feature that's on one but not the other? If you think you're ever going to want to use Rekordbox, then it has to be the XDJ-AZ. But if you want to use Serato, that's not going to help. They both work fine with that. And of course, the standalone features, as we've seen, are mainly comparable. So apart from things like lighting control, which is definitely a niche case on the Prime 4 Plus, and maybe the sampler, they really both do the same thing. Of course, if there's a streaming service you want to use like Tidal, well, it's currently only on the Prime 4 Plus. So again, that's making it easy for you. But if you can't separate them by features, then maybe separate them by size or price. Because the XDJ-AZ is definitely bigger and it's definitely heavier. And the price is definitely more. You could go and buy the Prime 4 Plus and one or maybe even two of the LC6000 decks at roughly the same price as just the XDJ-AZ. And then you'll have 4 physical turntables to play with, which again would be a lot of fun. The Prime 4 Plus is better value for money, and technologically it's at least as good as the XDJ-AZ, but the XDJ-AZ is now offering serious competition to it, and for a lot of DJs this is the one they've waited for, and it will win over the Prime 4 Plus. Now if you've got any questions about this, the team and I are here to help you. That's our job. So do ask them underneath. If you're watching the video on the website, you can ask in the comments. If you're watching it on YouTube, of course, you can ask underneath there. If you'd like to know how to use the units, again, we've got the full video tutorials available to you. Again, they're linked underneath. And if you've got the units, if you're using them with Rekordbox, or maybe you're even trying to use them with Serato and you're just stuck, remember we're a DJ school. We've got Serato and Rekordbox courses. They're called Serato Made Easy and Rekordbox Made Easy. You'll find them both underneath. They'll get you a real flying start with your software, so you can get on with doing the stuff you're here for, which is playing music to people who want to hear it, right? That's it then. I hope you found this useful. I'm Phil Morse here in the Digital DJ Tips DJ School Studios saying get good, get out there, make the moments, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.